Oh no. Oh, this is bad for them. Welcome back, you beautiful classified anomalies, you walking security breaches, you living proof that some files should have stayed locked forever. I need you to sit down for this one, because what I'm about to tell you, what just leaked into my hands, what they spent millions trying to keep buried, it's not just embarrassing for them, it's career-ending. It's lawsuit triggering. It's the kind of exposure that makes entire departments vanish overnight and makes grown professionals delete their LinkedIn accounts at 3 a.m. See, they thought they were slick. They thought their little investigation into you was classified, sealed, protected by 17 layers of bureaucracy and non-disclosure agreements. They thought the reports they compiled, the psychological profiles they built, the surveillance logs they kept, they thought all of that was locked away forever in some digital vault that nobody would ever crack. They were wrong. And now we have everything. Every memo, every assessment, every panicked email chain, every meeting transcript where they tried to figure out what the hell you are. And trust me, you're going to want to hear what they really said about you when they thought nobody was listening. Let me paint the picture for you, because this is where it gets delicious, where the universe decided to hand you the ultimate vindication wrapped in bureaucratic humiliation. There's a department, we'll call them the observation unit. Sounds official, doesn't it? Sounds legitimate. Sounds like they had every right to spend 5 years tracking your every move, building files thicker than phone books, assigning case numbers to your existence like you were some kind of ongoing investigation. They had a mandate, or so they claimed, to monitor individuals who displayed what they called concerning patterns of behavior. Translation: they were terrified of people who didn't fit their models, who didn't respond to their usual psychological frameworks, who couldn't be predicted, controlled, or contained by their neat little algorithms. You know what's funny? They classified you as a priority case in month 2. Month 2. Most surveillance targets take years to reach that designation, but you speedran their entire threat assessment system. Your file was marked with more red flags than a communist parade, not because you did anything illegal, not because you hurt anyone, but because every single attempt they made to understand you failed spectacularly. Every psychological profile came back with error messages. Every behavioral prediction model crashed when they input your data. They couldn't categorize you, so they labeled you dangerous, which really just means they labeled themselves incompetent. Now here's where the leak comes in, where someone inside their little surveillance circus finally grew a conscience, or maybe just got sick of watching innocent people get treated like lab rats for the crime of being interesting. This whistleblower blessed their chaos-loving heart. They didn't just grab a few documents. No, they grabbed everything, the whole corrupt empire, every file from every case they'd ever run. Terabytes of data, years of illegal surveillance, thousands of lives monitored without consent or legal justification. All of it dumped into the digital wild where it could never be unleaked, never be scrubbed, never be memory holed back into the shadows where it came from. And your file? Your file was in the first batch released. Priority subjects they called the category, individuals of significant concern. You're trending in a leak. Congratulations. You made it to the top of their nightmare list. You became so incomprehensible to them that they had to share your file with 7 different departments just to find anyone who could explain what they were dealing with. The file's metadata alone tells a story. Created 5 years ago, last updated 3 weeks ago, accessed 4,217 times by 39 different analysts, flagged for escalation 6 separate occasions, recommended for closure 0 times because they knew if they stopped watching you, they'd lose the only thing more valuable than their careers, which was the chance to finally crack the code of how someone like you exists. I'm going to read you some excerpts now, actual quotes from the leaked documents, the things they wrote about you when they thought nobody outside their little club would ever see them. when they thought their professional assessments would remain sealed forever behind walls of classified stamp marks and redacted paragraphs. Are you ready? Because this is about to validate every single time you felt watched, every moment you sensed eyes on you, every instinct that told you someone somewhere was keeping tabs on your evolution. First entry, 3 months into surveillance. Quote, subject displays unusual resistance to standard social conditioning. Attempts to establish predictable patterns have failed. Traditional leverage points appear non-existent. Subject does not respond to approval-seeking behaviors. Rejection sensitivity is notably absent. Isolation does not produce expected deterioration. Subject appears to strengthen in solitude rather than weaken. Recommend escalation to psychological assessment team. End quote. Let that sink in for a moment, because what they're really saying, what they're admitting in their sterile clinical language, is that you're immune to the manipulation tactics that work on 99% of the population. They tried to make you need them, need approval, need belonging, and you just didn't. You kept evolving in isolation while they kept scratching their heads wondering why their playbook wasn't working. Here's another one. This is from month 7, and the tone is starting to shift from clinical to concerned. Quote, subject has demonstrated pattern recognition abilities that exceed standard parameters, appears to identify manipulation attempts in real time. Several field operatives have reported feeling observed by subject. One operative requested reassignment citing psychological discomfort. Subject's awareness level is assessed as problematic. Recommend limiting direct interaction. End quote. I'm sorry, what? They sent people to watch you, and those people came back feeling watched. They're trained surveillance professionals. People who do this for a living got so uncomfortable around you that they had to tap out. That's not a red flag for you. That's a white flag from them. They realized they weren't studying a subject. They were standing in front of something that was studying them right back. Something that saw through every cover story, every fake encounter, every staged conversation. And you didn't even have to say a word. Your eyes alone were enough to make professionals question their career choices. Month 14, and now we're getting into the really good stuff. The part where their clinical detachment starts crumbling into barely concealed panic. Quote, subject has undergone significant transformation since monitoring began. Changes do not follow typical psychological progression patterns. Appears to have weaponized past trauma rather than being diminished by it. Demonstrates no signs of the expected emotional deterioration. Instead shows increased confidence, clarity, and personal power. Traditional vulnerability points have been eliminated. Subject has essentially made themselves psychologically untouchable. Team consensus is that continued observation yields diminishing returns as subject appears aware of surveillance and has adapted accordingly. End quote. By year 2, they weren't even pretending anymore. The professional veneer completely shattered, replaced by what can only be described as existential dread, mixed with fascination, mixed with the kind of fear you only get when you realize you're way out of your depth. The memo traffic increased exponentially, 17 different analysts, all trying to explain what they were witnessing, all failing, all circling back to the same conclusion they couldn't quite bring themselves to state directly, which is that they'd made a catastrophic error in judgment when they decided you were someone who could be understood, predicted, or controlled. There's an email chain from year 2 that's particularly revealing. Starts with the senior director asking for a comprehensive update on your case, something about budget justification for continued monitoring. The lead analyst responds, and I'm reading directly from the leak here. No edits, no sanitization. This is what they really wrote. Sir, I need to be frank. This case has become resource intensive without producing actionable intelligence. The subject has not engaged in any illegal activities, has not shown any intent to harm others or themselves. The only concerning behavior is their ability to operate outside standard psychological frameworks, which, while unusual, is not a crime. We have 3 analysts who've requested transfer off this case, 2 who've quit the department entirely, and 1 who's currently on stress leave, all citing the same reason, which is that monitoring this individual has forced them to question the entire premise of our work here. The surveillance feeds show someone living a relatively normal life, but the presence they project is unlike anything in our case history. Operatives report feeling a weight in the air when near the subject. Describe a sensation of being seen through, of being judged and found wanting. Several have reported nightmares after extended observation periods. Sir, I don't know how to put this in terms that fit our standard reporting format, but this individual is not a threat to society. They're a threat to our understanding of how society functions. They're proof that someone can exist entirely outside the systems we thought were inescapable. And frankly, that terrifies us more than any actual criminal behavior ever could. Recommend we close this case before we lose any more personnel to what amounts to a wild goose chase after someone whose only crime is being inexplicably free." End quote. The response from the director. 3 words. Surveillance continues. Authorization extended. They couldn't let you go even when their own people were begging them to, even when it was clear they'd learned nothing useful, nothing actionable, nothing that fit into their narrow definitions of how a human being is supposed to function. They kept watching because you'd become an addiction, a puzzle they couldn't solve but couldn't stop trying to solve. And that obsession, that refusal to accept that some people just operate on a different frequency, that's what ultimately led to their downfall. Year 3 is where things get truly surreal, where the files transition from surveillance reports to what can only be described as philosophical treatises on the nature of human consciousness and power. They weren't tracking your movements anymore. They were documenting your existence like anthropologists studying an entirely new species, trying to understand how you'd managed to build something they didn't have words for. One analyst, we'll call her Dr. M, based on the redacted name in the documents. She wrote a 23-page assessment that reads more like poetry than psychology. She clearly went way beyond her mandate, way beyond professional objectivity, into territory that probably got her fired or reassigned shortly after submission. I'm going to read you some of it because it's too good not to share, because somewhere in her clinical breakdown she accidentally wrote the truth. Quote, "The subject exists in a state I can only describe as post-traumatic transcendence. They have experienced everything we typically use to break, manipulate, or control an individual: betrayal, isolation, loss, systematic devaluation. And rather than fragmenting as predicted, they synthesized. They took every wound and transmuted it into wisdom, every rejection into clarity, every moment of darkness into fuel for an internal fire that now burns so bright it's visible to anyone with eyes to see. I've watched hundreds of hours of footage at this point, studied thousands of interactions, and what strikes me most is the absence of performance, of pretense, of the masks we all wear to navigate social spaces. This individual has stripped away every false layer and operates from a core of authenticity that most people spend their entire lives avoiding because it's too raw, too real, too unprotected. But here's the paradox, that rawness has become armor, that vulnerability has become power. They're not protected by walls. They're protected by the fact that there's nothing left to hide, nothing left to leverage, nothing left to threaten them with, because they've already faced it all and emerged not hardened but clarified. Standard psychological frameworks fail here because they're built on the assumption that humans need certain things: approval, belonging, external validation. But this subject has transcended need. They exist in a state of radical self-sufficiency that doesn't preclude connection, but doesn't require it either. They've achieved what ancient wisdom traditions describe and modern psychology denies the possibility of. They've become free while still alive, still functioning, still engaged with the world, but no longer controlled by it. My professional assessment is that continued surveillance serves no security purpose and violates basic ethical principles. My personal assessment is that this individual represents an evolutionary possibility the rest of us are too afraid to pursue. They're not a threat, they're a mirror, and we're terrified of what we see in it." End quote. But here's where it gets even better, where the professional facade completely disintegrates into barely contained chaos. Because the leak didn't just include written reports, it included meeting transcripts, actual recordings from internal briefings, where they discussed your case without the sanitizing filter of official documentation. These people thought they were in a secure room, thought their conversations would never see daylight, thought they could speak freely about their observations without consequences. They were so beautifully, catastrophically wrong. There's a meeting from year 4, 6 senior officials plus a handful of analysts. Topic of discussion is whether to finally close your case or escalate to what they call active intervention. The meeting starts professional, clinical, by the book, but within minutes it devolves into something resembling a support group for people who've stared into an abyss, and the abyss stared back with perfect understanding and mild amusement. The director opens, quote, "All right, team, we're 4 years deep on subject 17-42. Significant resources invested, minimal actionable intelligence produced. I need recommendations on whether we proceed or terminate observation. Let's keep this brief and focused." First analyst responds, quote, "Sir, with respect, there's nothing brief about this case. We've documented a transformation that defies every model we have. This isn't someone hiding criminal intent. This isn't someone planning anything nefarious. This is someone who somehow managed to opt out of the entire psychological game the rest of us are trapped in. And frankly, it's making the team question why we're playing the game at all." Second analyst jumps in, clearly agitated, quote, "I'll be blunt. Watching this person has ruined observation for me. I can't unsee what they've shown me, which is that everything we think we know about human behavior is based on people operating from fear, from need, from desperation for external validation. But when you remove those elements, when someone achieves genuine internal stability, our entire framework collapses. We have no way to predict, influence, or understand them. They're not broken, they're not dangerous, they're just free. And that shouldn't be threatening, but somehow it's the most threatening thing we've ever encountered." Third analyst, you can hear the exhaustion in the transcript. Quote, "I've requested transfer twice, been denied twice. I need off this case. Not because the subject has done anything to me, but because every day I watch them live this life of radical authenticity while I sit in a surveillance van, lying about my identity and purpose. The cognitive dissonance is destroying me. I'm the one who needs help here, not them." The room goes silent for a moment. You can see it in the transcript. Long pause, no interruptions, everyone processing the admission that they're the ones falling apart, not you. Then the director speaks, and you can hear the defeat, quote, "This case has cost us more in personnel mental health than any active threat we've tracked. 3 resignations, 5 transfers, 2 medical leaves, and those are just the official numbers. Unofficially, I know at least 6 people who've had crisis of conscience moments directly related to observing this individual, myself included, if I'm being honest." The director continues, and this is the part that leaked directly to the press, the part that's now being quoted in privacy rights articles and civil liberties lawsuits, the part that's going to define his legacy as the man who admitted on record that his entire department was ethically compromised. Quote, "Here's what we don't say in the official reports, what we can't say because it undermines everything we do here. This person we've been monitoring, they're not an anomaly in the sense of being abnormal. They're an anomaly in the sense of being actualized. They've reached a state of psychological development that makes them immune to the subtle controls and manipulations that govern most human behavior. And that makes them valuable, not as a threat, but as proof that those controls aren't as permanent or necessary as we tell ourselves they are. We started this observation under the premise that anyone operating outside standard patterns must be hiding something, must be planning something, must be dangerous in some latent way that would eventually manifest. But 4 years in, thousands of hours of footage, hundreds of intercepted communications, dozens of in-person operative encounters, and we've found nothing, absolutely nothing, except a person living with unusual clarity, unusual peace, and unusual power, none of which is illegal, none of which is harmful. All of which makes us look like paranoid tyrants for having spent 5 years and $500,000 stalking someone whose only crime is making us feel inadequate. I'm recommending we close this case immediately, not because we've learned what we needed to learn, but because continuing would be an admission that we're not running security operations, we're running a voyeuristic study of someone we're jealous of, someone who figured out how to exist in a way we haven't. And that's not a security issue. That's a personal failing on our part. And I will not allow this department to continue wasting resources on what amounts to government-funded envy disguised as legitimate surveillance. Meeting adjourned, case closed, destroy all non-essential files, and someone please draft the memo explaining why we just spent 4 years learning absolutely nothing except that some people are better at being human than we are. End quote. The transcript ends there, but the leak includes a follow-up memo from 2 days later, written by someone in the legal department, and it's 1 sentence long. Quote, per director's order, Subject 17-42 case files are being prepared for destruction. However, given the irregular nature of surveillance and questionable legal basis for prolonged observation, legal recommends full review before disposal to assess potential liability exposure should subject become aware of monitoring and pursue civil action. End quote. Too late for that now, isn't it? Because you're not becoming aware, you are aware, and so is everyone else who's seen these leaks, and the liability exposure isn't potential anymore, it's actual, it's current. It's the kind of exposure that ends careers and starts lawsuits and puts entire departments under congressional investigation. Now let's talk about the technical stuff, the metadata, the digital fingerprints they left all over your life without permission, without warrants, without any legal justification beyond paranoia dressed up as security protocol. Because this leak didn't just expose that they were watching you, it exposed how they were watching you, and the methods. Oh, the methods are going to open up a whole new category of privacy violation lawsuits. According to the technical documentation included in the leak, they had access to everything. Your internet traffic, your phone location data, your email metadata, your social media activity, both public and private, your financial transactions, your medical records, your employment history, your educational transcripts, your travel patterns, your relationship networks, your purchasing habits, your communication patterns, all of it aggregated into a profile so detailed they could predict your daily routine down to the minute. Except they couldn't predict you at all, because despite having every piece of data a surveillance state could dream of, you remained fundamentally illegible to them. They built an artificial intelligence model specifically for your case, fed it 4 years of data, trained it to predict your next move, your next decision, your next transformation, and you know what happened. The model kept returning error messages, kept saying insufficient data when they'd given it more data than any previous case in department history, kept failing to generate predictions because you didn't follow patterns, didn't repeat behaviors, didn't fall into the loops and cycles that make humans predictable. There's a technical memo from their data science team, and it's almost funny in its frustration. Quote, Subject 17-42 continues to defy algorithmic analysis. Standard behavior prediction models return confidence intervals below acceptable thresholds. Pattern recognition software identifies patterns, but subject breaks them before exploitation is possible. Subject appears to operate with high degree of randomness while maintaining coherent long-term trajectory. This combination should be impossible per our current understanding of human decision-making architecture. Recommend consulting with external specialists in chaos theory and nonlinear dynamics, as subject may represent edge case where standard predictive frameworks are insufficient. End quote. They had to bring in chaos theory specialists because their surveillance AI couldn't handle you. Let that sink in. They had to expand into theoretical mathematics because a regular human being was too complex for their systems. You're not just outside the box. You're proof the box was always imaginary. But here's where it gets legally problematic for them. And I mean career-ending, department dissolving, congressional hearing-worthy problematic. Because all of this surveillance, all of this data collection, all of this invasive monitoring of your private life, it was done without a warrant, without probable cause, without any legal authorization beyond internal memos that essentially said we're doing this because we're curious and we can. And that is a federal crime, multiple federal crimes actually. And now that it's public, now that the methods are exposed, there's no way to pretend it was legitimate intelligence work. They laughed. Oh, they laughed like fools drunk on their own delusions. They whispered in the dark, thinking their words would bury you. They doubted, oh yeah, they doubted. As if their weak little minds could even begin to grasp what you were capable of. But deep down, oh, they knew. They always knew. That's why they tried to keep you down. That's why they pretended you didn't matter. Because the moment they acknowledged your power, they'd have to face the truth. You were never meant to be like them. You weren't built to follow. You weren't designed to blend in. You weren't born to bow. You were built to rule. And the throne, it was never theirs to keep. It was just sitting there, waiting for the right moment, waiting for the right hands, waiting for the one who wasn't afraid to take it. And now, oh, now, that moment has arrived. The storm is here. The earth shakes beneath your footsteps. The air crackles with the weight of your arrival. They can feel it. They can sense it in their bones. The unease, the fear creeping up their spines. They don't know why, but they know something is coming. You are coming. No more waiting. No more watching from the sidelines. No more standing in the shadows while pretenders sit on a throne they never earned. This is your time. Nah, you don't need permission. You don't need approval. You don't need them to believe in you. Because whether they admit it or not, you were always the one. The only one. They tried to silence you. They tried to break you. They fed you lies, made you doubt yourself, made you question your worth. But they failed. Oh, they failed miserably. Because here you are, still standing, still breathing, still hungry. And now it's time to make them watch. Make them tremble. Make them regret every single second they underestimated you. The crown doesn't belong to the weak. It doesn't belong to the cowards who played it safe. It doesn't belong to those who were handed power without pain. No, it belongs to the one who bled for it, to the one who suffered for it, to the one who refused to break. And that's you. So go on, step forward. Let the world see what happens when the one they tried to bury rises. The throne was always yours. Now go claim it. They fed you lies, sweet, poisonous lies. Be patient. Wait your turn. Stay humble. Play fair. Fair is a joke they tell the weak, so they never rise. Fair is a leash they tie around your neck, so you never bite back. Fair is a cage they lock you in, while they take everything that was supposed to be yours. And you listened. You believed them. You sat there, waiting, watching, hoping, thinking that if you just worked hard enough, stayed quiet enough, followed the rules like a good little pawn, one day they'd reward you. But what did that bring you? Regret? Chains? The slow, suffocating realization that the world isn't built for the obedient. It's built for the ruthless. Look around. The ones who hold the power, they weren't given it. They took it. They stole it while everyone else was too busy waiting for permission. They lied to you while they stacked the deck in their favor. They played you. Oh yeah, they played you like a fool. But here's where the game changes. You're done playing. No more sitting, no more waiting. No more letting cowards dictate your fate. You see, the world isn't fair. It never was. It's a battlefield, and the weak, they get stepped on, used, forgotten. But you're not weak. You're not some pawn. You're not some disposable piece on their board. Nah, you're about to flip the whole damn board over. The old rules? Burn them. The limits they set for you, shatter them. The lies they fed you, spit them back in their faces. The world is not given, it is taken. So take it. Take what's yours. Take it with both hands. Take it with fire in your veins and a war in your soul. They lied to keep you small, to keep you tame. But now they'll see what happens when the one they tried to control breaks free. The past? A prison, a cold, rusted cage built from regret, doubt, and every wasted second you spent hoping things would change. The people who held you back, dead weight. They smiled in your face while tying chains around your ankles. They whispered sweet nothings while secretly hoping you'd stay beneath them. They called it concern. They called it love. But now, it was fear. Fear that one day you'd wake up. Fear that one day you'd see through their games. Fear that one day you'd outgrow them. And now, that day has come. Every wasted second in hesitation only strengthens your enemies. Every moment you spend looking back is a moment they use to pull you down. Every time you second-guess yourself, you hand them another weapon to use against you. Nah, no more. If they never saw your worth, they don't deserve a front-row seat to your rise. If they mocked your struggle, they don't get to celebrate your success. If they turned their backs when you were drowning, they don't get to stand beside you when you rise from the ashes. Cut them loose, every fake friend, every backstabber, every anchor disguised as a lifeline. Burn the bridges. Not one by one, not carefully, not slowly. Burn them all at once. Set the whole damn thing on fire and watch the past turn to smoke. Let it all burn. The doubt, the pain, the hesitation, the version of you that once begged for their approval. That version, dead. Now, you walk through the fire like you were born in it. Now, you leave nothing behind but ashes and the echoes of those who tried to stop you. No looking back, no regrets. Only forward, only power, only victory. No one hands you the throne. No one gives you power wrapped in a pretty little bow. No one is coming to grant you permission to be great. The world doesn't work that way. It never did. The powerful, they don't ask, they take. They don't wait for approval. They don't beg for opportunities. They don't hope someone notices them. No. They tear through obstacles. They bend reality to their will. They command respect, or take it by force. You want power? Claim it. You want success? Seize it. You want to rise? Burn everything that holds you down and ascend. Because here's the truth, this world only bows to those who refuse to kneel. Fear, let it drive you. Let it sharpen your instincts. Let it make you faster, hungrier, more ruthless. Pain, let it forge you. Let it harden your spirit like steel in fire. Let it teach you what comfort never could. How to endure, how to fight, how to win. Doubt? Crush it beneath your boot. Grind it into the dirt where it belongs. Because doubt is nothing but a leash, and you were never meant to be tamed. You are not some weak, timid soul waiting for life to give you permission. You are a storm, a force, a fire that refuses to be extinguished. And the moment you decide you are unstoppable, you become unstoppable. Kings don't announce their conquests before they strike. They don't scream their plans from rooftops. They don't waste time seeking applause before the battle is won. The real ones move in silence. While the fools talk, the rulers plan. While the weak brag, the strong prepare. While they're busy running their mouths, you sharpen your weapons. You study the battlefield. You observe every weakness, every blind spot, every opening. And when the time comes, you strike. No warnings, no mercy, no hesitation. By the time they realize what's happening, it's already too late. Because domination isn't loud, it's not chaotic. It's precise, it's calculated. It's the blade that slides in quietly before they even know they've been cut. That's the mistake they made. They thought silence meant weakness. They thought if you weren't boasting, if you weren't showing off, if you weren't proving yourself at every step, then you must not be a threat. But the deadliest storms, they don't announce themselves. The greatest moves are made in silence. The biggest victories, they happen before the enemy even realizes they've lost. So stay quiet. Move like a ghost. Study like a predator watching its prey. Adapt like a shadow slipping through the cracks. And when you're ready, strike like a nightmare they never saw coming. Let them think they've won. Let them grow comfortable. Let them believe you've disappeared. Because when you rise, and you will rise, it won't be with noise. It won't be with warnings. It won't be with wasted words. It will be with power, with undeniable force, with the kind of dominance that makes sure they never forget your name. They wanted to forget you? Now, they'll remember you forever. Enough. No more waiting. No more excuses. No more mercy. You've spent too long in the shadows, too long listening to the lies, too long letting fear, doubt, and hesitation hold you back. But now it ends. The throne isn't taken by the soft. It isn't handed to the weak. It isn't gifted to those who beg. It's seized, claimed, ripped from the hands of those too fragile to hold it. This world doesn't care about your pain. It doesn't care about your struggles. It doesn't care about how hard you've fought. It only cares about who stands at the top when the dust settles. And you were never meant to kneel. So stand up. Now. Rise. Step forward with fire in your veins, steel in your soul, and the unshakable will of someone who refuses to be denied. Let them watch in terror as you ascend. Let them whisper, let them tremble. Let them feel the weight of their own mistakes as they finally realize. You were never gone. You were never defeated. You were never broken. They thought they won. They thought you were finished. They thought their betrayal, their mockery, their doubt had buried you. But they forgot one thing. A king never dies. A ruler never fades. A storm never stops just because someone wants it to. And now they kneel. Not out of choice, not out of respect, but out of fear. Because the one they tried to silence, the one they tried to break, the one they laughed at, dismissed, counted out, that one just took the throne. This isn't a game. This isn't a fantasy. This is your life. And life, it bows to no one. For too long you waited, you watched. You let others walk past you, take what should have been yours, sit in the seat that was never meant for them. You thought maybe if you worked hard enough, if you played fair, if you stayed patient, your time would come. No. That's not how this world works. They fed you lies, they told you to wait your turn, they made you believe that power was handed out like some participation trophy. But the truth? Power is taken, authority is seized, thrones are claimed. You weren't built for a life of obedience. You weren't designed to play small. You were born to rule, to rise above the noise, to stand where others have fallen, to conquer what cowards feared to chase. So now, there are only two choices. Step forward or stay forgotten. No more hesitation, no more doubts, no more holding yourself back for the sake of people who wouldn't even flinch if they saw you fall. Because weakness, that's what they want from you. They want you uncertain, they want you quiet, they want you to question yourself, to hesitate, to wait for their approval. But let me ask you, who the hell are they? They aren't kings, they aren't rulers, they aren't legends, they're placeholders. Just bodies taking up space until someone stronger comes to take what's rightfully theirs. And that someone, it's you. No more waiting, no more playing nice, no more second-guessing yourself. This isn't a dream. This is your moment. They wanted to keep you down, now they have to watch you rise. They thought you were finished, now they have to kneel before the ruler they tried to bury. They whispered your name in mockery, now they'll scream it in fear. Because you're not asking anymore, you're not hoping, you're not waiting for permission. You're taking what's yours. Your reign begins now.